Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Evolve with Titans, where I sit with some of the best minds in the industry and decipher the recipe behind creativity and success. Today's Titan is an interesting personality. He's a classical pianist who has collaborated with many artists not only in India but across the world, a popular speaker and also a columnist. And most significantly, is a founder of Rhapsody, a successful platform that teaches kids to learn through art and music. It aims to take art-based learning to more than 5 lakh kids across India. He was awarded Kalaimamani Award by the government of Tamil Nadu in 2019 for his pioneering work in music and education. Welcome to the show, Anil. It's a great pleasure to have you in the show.
Hi Amar, I'm happy to do this.
We have known each other or heard about each other for years now, but we always want to meet and then finally it's happening. It's happening in this show. So the first question I'm going to hit directly to the point. In a personal, like I'm going to ask a personal question. I remember as a kid I was creative, doing lots of doodling and drawing and all that, and I don't know how suddenly it disappeared for years. And for years I was under an impression that I was not at all a creative guy, right? I am destined to do engineering. This is what I want to do, and I thought I'm in love with computer science and I'm in love with engineering and entrance exams and all. This is what happened. And after so many years, photography came back to me. Luckily, I embraced it and I became a photographer, and I felt so many times that I'm a very, very creative guy because I get a lot of ideas. It's like so many things manifest out of my ideas and all that. So luckily it happened to me, but there are so many other people who would have lost it. What do you think about that? What is the reason behind it, and how can we change that?
I think the world is very scared of creative people because creative people are considered very unpredictable because we live in the world of ideas and we live in the world of looking beyond the obvious. You and I look at this table and we start automatically looking at where will this table fit, how can I redesign it, what can I do with it visually, can it become a tabletop photo installation. I'm thinking hundreds of things when I look at this table. I'm not looking at this table going what wood is it made of, what is the dimensions, right? So the way you and I think is very scary for a lot of people because you can't predict people like us. Today you'll be on one idea, tomorrow you're going to be on another idea, and that's anything that is sort of wild like that, it invokes a lot of fear. And I think throughout our life we have been living in systems, in places, in policies which are designed to reduce fear. Reducing fear is making things more predictable. Making things more predictable is to cut out anything that is getting into the realm of imagination, getting into the realm of free will, and bringing it down to something that can be controlled, measured and predicted. That is where the whole world is heading. Unfortunately, education is headed into that space. Education has become a marks predictor. It has become a way in which you get a certain set of marks, you can go to a particular college. If you go to that particular college, you will have a particular job. That particular job will get you financial security. Everything is dealt with in terms of numeracy. Everything is measured by numbers. Marks, job, income, everything is about money, right? And everything is about numbers. And I think that we both know that almost every one of us has got creativity as part of us. Every one of us is creative, and creativity can manifest in anything. So there's also this feeling that if you're an artist, you're a creative person. I know of a lot of artists who are not at all creative. Similarly, I know of a lot of very, very creative people who are not artists. Creativity is a part of every human being, and it is like a particular magic that each of us have. Many of us, most of us are unfortunate that gets suppressed and we don't even know that it has gotten suppressed. I would say you're one of the lucky people because you rediscovered that magic and you've made that into this beautiful evolve, and you're evolving with it and you have embraced it and you've gone for it. Very few people have been able to do it because, as I said, entire universe is filled with institutions and filled with processes which will tell you how not to do it. There are very few people telling you it's okay and you should go for it, because it's the creative people who are making a difference to the world.
So how do we fix this?
So the answer for me lies in the fact that I think education needs a complete makeover, right? So we're talking about makeover, extreme makeover, home edition, Madri. I think we need extreme makeover for education because education has gone into a space where a sum of subjects. If I do maths, if I do language, if I do physics, if I do chemistry, and if I do a sum of subjects, it shows that I'm educated. Education is a piece of paper, right? I think you and I know that in dealing with life, you need many other skill sets. You need many other ways in which you can work with people, work with ideas, work with who you are, and show the best of yourself to the world. I think we need to ask ourselves: what is the point of education? Is the point of education to get you a degree, or is the point of education to actually teach you how to live? Right? I think I am part of a growing breed of people who are going into the second option, which is how can we re-gear education into inculcating a spirit of how to live, right? And if we were to look at some of them, I'll ask you this question. So what do you think are important life skills to learn?
Working as a team.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about decision making?
Decision making, yeah.
How to resolve conflict.
Yeah.
Right. These are all life skills which we are having to navigate, right? So in fact, I read this somewhere. With all the syllabuses in the world, right? Nobody teaches you how to love also. To start with, nobody teaches you how to love yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Almost all of education has been designed to teach you not to love yourself, because you're always measuring yourself against some objective measure, whether it's marks or ranks or whatever it is, admission, entrance tests. It is designed to make you not love yourself, right? It is also designed to make you not like that person who makes it past the entrance exam, right? What the more important life skills are, how do we fix our relationships? I think, Amar, if you're a self-made professional like you are, you will realize that the key to almost everything in life is not your degrees, it's not your education, it is not your qualifications, but it is how you've managed relationships. Relationships are everything. Which part of school education or college education is teaching you that? Right? So unless we re-gear this, unless we put it from the primary years itself, so for foundational skills, we are talking about foundational skills are required in numeracy and literacy. Okay, how to work with numbers, how to work with alphabets, of course it's important. But imagine along with that, we start creating the building blocks of how to work with ideas, how to work with people, right? How to then mix ideas with people, right? And create ideas of your own. Supposing we started putting all those things as building blocks into education, would you not say that those are probably very, very important or far more vital ingredients to the recipe of life than just learning maths and English? Right?
But when compared to the system that I went or you went and the system that kids are going now, I see a drastic difference.
Yeah.
Is it enough, or what do you think?
I'm glad that people have realized that, how we went through education is, you and me are ourselves different generations, but at least, people have realized that things need to change. But we still have a very long way to go. A very, very, very long way to go. I keep thinking about this. This famous experiment. I forget which company did this. They put a computer in an open window in a slum, and children taught themselves how to work with the computer. No instruction was provided, no lessons were provided, nothing. They just put a computer. It was called the Open Window Project. I forget who did this. And children learned how to use the computer and how to harness the internet all on their own. Right? So I think somewhere education needs to start questioning as to what it is needed for. Because the facts, figures, formula, all these things you can now get anywhere. You don't need to go to school for that. I think the pandemic has shown us that you can learn a lot without going to. So what are we really going to school for then? That's the question I have been asking myself every day. Why do children need to go to school? Why do they go to school? If you were to answer me and say it's to learn maths and physics and chemistry, I can easily argue that you can learn even without going to school.
The biggest thing that they get is relationship there.
Exactly. But how much of time are we investing in actually sculpting that, nurturing that, and giving a space for that?
In fact, we are going in the opposite direction. If two boys or two girls are getting together,
they will say separate them, put them in. So we just look at, so if you were to say, see, it's all very well to say now we've got tablets in school, now we've got computer labs in school. When I went to school, right, I think, was it Karthik Kumar who's done the stand-up comedy act on this, and he said the computer lab was like the temple, right? You have to remove your shoes to go into the computer lab, then they will not allow you to use not more than 2 children on a computer at one point, as if the computer is going to bite you, okay? So the point is, we are so fascinated with machines, technologies, color things, right? Nobody is working on the color that is inside you, right? Just because I give you a fancy uniform or a fancier school bag or an iPad to take to school doesn't mean that education is changing. It just means the tools have changed. You and I use, நான் தமிழ்ல சொல்லுவேன் இது, நீங்களும் நானும் ஸ்லேட் யூஸ் பண்ணிருப்போம், இப்போ பசங்க வந்து டேப்லெட் யூஸ் பண்றாங்க, அவ்வளவுதான். So that's all that's happening, right? The real regearing is, okay, collaboration. You mentioned that word collaboration. Which school that you know of is giving points for how well teams performed well together in an exam? First of all, are you even allowed to take an exam as a team? You do projects for project day, but ultimately it's 1 mark sheet, no? Let's start with that. Now you talk about your workplaces, you talk about wherever you go in life, whether you're in the cinema industry, you're in photography, you're in medicine. Do you do anything by yourself?
No, it's all teamwork.
And when we win also, do we say, I alone won, nobody else in this room, but I alone won? Are we allowed to say that? Actually, in Studio A, I alone came first, none of the others. Do you ever say that? But all throughout school, you are taught to say that. நல்லா படிச்சு நீயும் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ரேங்க் எடுக்கணும். Who is saying நல்லா படிச்சு உன்னோட கூட சேர்ந்து? So there's a thing, no, right? If you're at the finish line, Amar, do you want to go past the finish line so that you can stand on the podium, or do you wait for your friends who are with you, hold their hands and cross the line together? Which one do you think children are being taught to do? Has that changed?
That's not changed.
So then where is education changed? Right? So this has been my problem, right? So throughout school, I'll tell you this, I was very unpopular because I was one of those students who did very well. I was academically very bright. Of course, my friends will now say that I was very popular, but I didn't feel very popular because automatically the children who do well, you'll always be, right? So you're not one of them, right? You're always one of those 3 or 4 first benchers, right? I was unfortunately one of those children, right? And it always used to strike me, this is something's wrong with this, right? Everybody's telling me to study hard and do very well, but doing well is not getting me any friends. I find this even as an entrepreneur. Doing well does not get me any friends. People are more envious, people are more mistrusting, people are more everything, right? I can think of more people who are thinking that he must be doing something slightly koncha dana pannittirupparu. I think it's because he has contacts. Avarku ipo vandu state award kuduttaangala, avarku minister la theriyum. Who is saying, oh, he totally deserves it because he's such a lovely person and so talented and so humble? They'll say that on Facebook. Nobody actually means it, right? When you put up an achievement on Facebook and everybody says, so well deserved, macha, you're fantastic, oh, you're so fabulous. You know, secretly they're all saying, Ivan Periyavathan, right? Nobody, do you go around life telling people that you see, bro, I like the way you're dressed? Like, we don't talk like that, right? And if you look, எல்லாத்தையும் rewind பண்ணி பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, if you return to innocence, if you start from kindergarten, the achievement orientation for an individual is higher than the achievement orientation for the collective. Very few educational paradigms in the world, maybe Japan, little bit, Finland, some slightly evolved societies where lesser number of people are there, right? Okay, we also have the problem of population in our country, right? So, inga vandu scarcity irukku. You have one job and you have 100 people competing for it. So unfortunately, on the competition prachana vandirudhu. But should we not be creating more ideators and more entrepreneurs? Right? With everybody I know has an idea. You know, in Gujarat, I've seen this happen to currency note. Nammala enna pandrom? Currency note cringichna, if a currency note tears, we tend to discard it. In Chennai, we won't be able to use it. In Gujarat, they'll put it into a plastic cover, staple it and still use it. Okay? And I used to find that very strange. Plastic la koduttirukanga, but they find ways to reuse. And I thought this is pretty cool actually, right? It's just a promissory note. Being Gujarat, I noticed one more thing in that. There's a plastic surrounding a torn currency note, right? People are putting advertisements for their products inside that plastic note because then you will get more number of impressions. And I was thinking, what an entrepreneurial culture this is, yeah? Wow, okay? What you and me would have discarded saying this ella the note, has suddenly become Celery Note, and they're using Celery Note to actually advertise ideas. How cool is that? I'm sure nobody taught that in school, Amar.
So, I want to go back to this thing where, okay, till a period of time when you go ask a child, he or she says, I want to become this, I want to become that, I want to become this, right? And then
At 16, they don't
16,
care.
17, you all want to crack
Whichever
either
gives-
this or this.
Yeah, either crack these two exams,
Right.
whatever it is, EMI is cut, no, we've come into that.
So, forgetting about the financial thing, right? Like, can we go to that person and decipher this creativity and give them in their hand and say, if you do these things, you will become creative? Is that possible?
I think you cannot tell a child you can become creative. I think you can tell a child you are creative. And here is an opportunity for you to discover it for yourself.
So,
Right, so
define
that-
creativity for me.
Yeah, so looking beyond the obvious and following an idea from its inception to execution. I think that is being creative. Right? I think there are two words in that I am going to highlight. The first is looking beyond, and the second is following through. Right? Idea varudhu ellarkum da idea varum. How many people are following through until execution? Right? From diagram to drawing room, or from farm to fork, whatever you need to be able to, idu or idea irukku, the idea when I pursue panni, I must execute it till the last step. That along with the inception, which is the looking beyond the obvious, I'm able to look in multiple ways at something. The creativity is simply the ability to look at anything with multiple perspectives. Right? If I take a note, the fact that I'm able to look at a note in multiple ways is what is making me a composer. The same set of notes, you may probably sing it in one sequence, but I am able to use the same notes to create 20 other sequences. That is being creative. In your case, you're looking at an object, you're looking at light, and you're beginning to look at light and say, inga dimma irukku, inga idu irukku. But you're suddenly looking at possibilities there. You're looking beyond the obvious, and then you're carrying through, no, Amar. You're using that to actually express something about yourself through that. You are able to tell your truth through the craft that you have cultivated. That is your creative expression. Now, to be able to get that, and by the way, you can be a mathematician and be a very creative mathematician. Who are the mathematicians who are creative? Those are the people who are contributing theorems to the world. Those are the people who are finding new ways of doing mathematics. Right? Maria Montessori. Right? Maria Montessori, we know the Montessori system of education, but that was one individual who suddenly said, why can't I look at, she was able to make education more creative. We need more Maria Montessoris, right? We need more people who can think like that, who can say, no, let's not do it like this, let's do it in another way. So those are the creative educators, right? I don't want to talk about creative accountants, that makes people think of fraud, okay? But I don't mean fraud, right? Accounting, there are lots of theories that people are coming out, etc. So I'm just saying that there are, in every field, I think the world needs more creative engineers. You just have to see the state of civil works to know that we need more creative people there. I keep saying this about auditoriums. When I perform in an auditorium, I'm thinking, okay, this has been designed by an engineer, not by a musician. Because there'll be a problem with acoustics, there's a problem with design. And the sort of considerations that has gone into designing the auditorium has nothing to do with the music. They need more seats there, they need better ventilation there, then nothing of that has to do with the performer. Why has this thought not struck people, right? You're ultimately going into an auditorium in order to listen to a performance, right? Should it not be designed around the performance? Why are people bothered? அந்த ரோல் இன்னும் எக்ஸ்ட்ரா 2 சீட் அப்படி ஆட் பண்ணாக்க இப்படி ஒரு வளைவு கொடுத்தாக்க ஆட் பண்ணலாம். ஓகே, கிரேட், யூ ஆர் கெட்டிங் பெட்டர் கெப்பாசிட்டி, ஐ எம் ஷூர் தட்ஸ் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். பட் வாட் அபவுட் த ஸ்டேஜ், right? So every single field, every single sphere of life requires creativity, and many other things we've discussed, like
so you're breaking some fundamental thinking of fundamental ideas of creativity for me. So all these days I was thinking, hey, if you have so many ideas, you're creative, right? But you highlighted an amazing following it through the execution, because so many people have ideas and many people fail in this execution part.
So think about it, Amar. If Einstein, so I read this book by Alan Lightman, who's a MIT professor of physics, and it's called Einstein's Dreams. It's a fictionalized account of a diary that Einstein had kept. So apparently for 30 days before he submitted the specific theory of relativity, which of course, as you know, changed science forever, he kept a journal of his dreams. And each dream he used to, and this is just amazing, right, that somebody can recollect what was in a dream and write about it the next day in a journal. First of all, I think that's what geniuses are able to do, right, and the rest of us are not. in each dream, he had a different theory about time. Okay, one of the dreams he thinks of time as a circular concept, which means that we will all be stuck in one rut, doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. In another dream, he thinks that time moves at different speeds for different people. So you will age faster, I will age slower. He imagines another world in which time is in different countries at a different, going at different speeds. So somebody who thinks like this, and in this last dream, he thinks of, in music, there is a particular concept called counterpoint, right, where if a tune eduthuttona, and the tune, I can play the same tune with another tune, with the same tune. That is, right hand la or tune vasikren, adhe tune la left hand la vasik poren. Between right hand and left hand, there will be a cycle gap. Okay, and despite the fact that it's the same tune being played by both hands separately, because I play it in that particular fashion, it will create harmony. This is one genius concept in music, right? And it's counterpoint. And Einstein thinks about a pianist like me, not me, I was not born, but thinks about a pianist playing counterpoint, 2-point counterpoint, which then informs him of relative motion, frequency, and the specific theory of relativity. And so an idea in music inspires an idea in science. Okay, so our world looks at the musician and says he's creative, looks at the scientist and says he's not creative. Define Einstein then, who was both a musician and a scientist, right? So when you start thinking about creativity, your spark can come from anywhere, right? A Marie Curie can take an inspiration from something else. Abdul Kalam could take an inspiration from anything, right? I remember Birju Maharaj, we were all in a residency in England, in Liverpool. And Maharajji was there, lots of great artists were there. I was privileged to be part of the same residency. And he asked his students, how does Anil play the piano? Show it in dance. And everybody showed like this. And he says, that is a typewriter. How is he actually playing? Do you observe? Then he shows it like this. He says, takita takita thina, takita thina, takita takita thina, takita thina, takita takita thina. Everybody. Waves are culture. Okay, and he says, if you look at his hands, they're actually moving in waves on the piano. It's never moving like that. That's a typewriter, that's a computer. How much of us are observing? So that became his choreography for the next movement. That's a creative person. That's a creative artist, right? He's not just dancing, Amar. He took an idea, he's seen beyond the obvious, and he carried it through to execution. Okay, idhula ennalla skills varno. Artistic creativity has to be there, right? Meaning that you have to understand aesthetic, you have to understand improvisation, those things are important. Cognitive creativity, how are you able to apply creativity to the way you think about something? Now, how do I use this to construct another paradigm? How do I use this to construct another program? How do I use this idea to construct another thing, another creation? That is your cognitive creativity. I need to work with an ensemble, because I need a group to be able to work with me to be able to execute this, and for that I need better relationship skills, and that's collaborative creativity. Finally, I must be able to use design, I must be able to use technology or use tools or equipment that the world is giving me and use it better in order to get the best output out, which is design and innovation. So artistic creativity, cognitive creativity, collaborative creativity, design and innovation. The kalavai of these four things is creative intelligence, right? So you need to, that is the thesis, that is a thesis through which you can then, if you want to reset education, you need a thesis. You need a specific belief system on which lessons can then be based. By the way, this is what we have done at Rhapsody. We've broken creative intelligence down into these 4 pillars and then taken these 4 pillars and said, how can we create lessons out of this from kindergarten all the way up to class 12? That's what we do.
Another thing that also happens in our education system is the confidence with creative people is very, very less. Why do you think that is so?
For the same reasons that I think our conversation started with. I think we have a system that privileges academic performance as the superior goal to be achieved, right? Doing well in exams. So what happens is that if you are a creative person who does very well in exams, you will still be a confident creative. If you are one of those creatives who gets very lost in their ideas and does not pay too much attention to academic performance, you become a diffident creative. Because unfortunately, we know every child is like a butterfly, is unique, is different and beautiful. But unfortunately, we don't seem to have different yardsticks for measuring each child. We seem to use one yardstick. How can one size fit all? That is why most creative people are defeated.
And that carries over all
Throughout
through
your
the-
life, because if I set in a pattern, I'll put it to you this way. Nobody teaches you how to be happy. You know? Nobody teaches you to be happy. Everybody teaches you to be sad. And everybody teaches you to be fearful, mistrusting and calculating from the time you're born. Nobody teaches you to be happy, which is why most of us have a problem in adult life. Because the most important lessons, how to love, how to nurture relationships, how to be happy with yourself, nobody taught us. There's no textbooks. Because those textbooks are called self-help. Okay? And unfortunately, that's tucked into the last aisle of the bookstore. Nobody goes there.
Okay, if a kid comes to you and says, teach me how to be happy.
A kid never comes to you and says, teach me to be happy, because the kid is happy. It's only the adolescent who comes and tells you, I'm depressed. By the way, I did not know what the word depression meant till I was in my 20s. I don't know about you. Nowadays, kids seem to know it at 12. I'm going through a depression. And that a lot of comparisonitis has set in. I don't want to get into that topic because you will have me for the next 3 hours. If I were to define I'm 44, I'm going to be 45. If somebody were to ask me how one thing I could change, I wish I had learned how to be happy with myself from the youngest age. I think just that rewiring would probably make me the most creative, the most productive self that I can possibly be. I'm having to spend most of my adult life trying to correct for that problem. Right? Because I have to consciously give myself affirmations. I have to look at one-liner quotes. I have to give myself bumper stickers. I have to do all these things and read self-help books in order to do something which, if it had been a natural habit since I was 3, would not be causing me a problem today. See, it's like learning how to cycle, right?
Can we induce that?
I think we can. I think if you help children remain in a creative, imaginative space where we give them importance for their ideas, we affirm to them that their ideas are important, and we affirm to them that their ideas are worthwhile, I think you will be seeing a return to a happier childhood.
So, one other thing that going back to Rhapsody, one other thing that I read in your website and all that is learning subjects, math, science through music and through art form, right? Can you elaborate on that?
So, there are multiple ways to learn the same thing, right? So, I can learn the alphabet as A, B, C, D, right? Or I can learn it as a song. So, if I were to say A, B, C, D versus A, B, C, D, E, F, G, which one do you remember better?
The song.
That's all there is to it.
But I'm always intrigued. Okay, that will work for.
I'll put it to you this way. I'll put it to you this way, Amar. Can you tell me your most favorite lesson in science from 7th standard? In 10 seconds or less.
Light.
Okay, that by the way does not come in the 7th standard. Now I'll ask you another question. Complete the following sentence. Kanni Kalaimani. Complete.
I know. Kanni Mailan.
நான் அது உங்களுக்கு வந்து லெசன்ஸில் சொல்லிக் கொடுக்கவே இல்லை, எப்படி ஞாபகம் இருக்கு? Okay, so that's your demonstration. You want a demonstration, that's your demonstration, right? Because what's happening is when it coming to you in the form of art, right? It's not only about memory and what it's first of all, neurophysiologically it is activating more of your brain than coming as text. That's been scientifically proven. If I say something as a sentence, it's firing 1/10,000th the number of neurotransmitters as when I'm singing. That is why you can remember songs better. Why have we not used that simple logic in teaching lessons? இப்படி தான் சொல்லி கொடுக்கணும். Where was the rule that I have to write formula on the board and make children repeat? Why could I not use music? Isn't that another way of learning something? So maybe if you'd use music or visual art or theatre or movement or whatever it is, maybe imagine in 7th standard, instead of learning it from a science textbook, they taught it to you using a camera. Do you not think you would have learnt it with far more assiduousness?
Yeah, totally.
So why do I even need to explain why art is needed to teach STEM or other subjects?
So how are you executing this? Is it possible to convert all
So we made it into level. It's not possible to convert every single thing. So I can't write Boolean algebra as a song, right? But I'm saying that there are ways of exploring other ways. I have only created the basic stuff, right? So I have created a way, right? I have said I have 460 lesson plans which are mapped to basically CBSE from kindergarten all the way up to class 6. And we have said, okay, you can teach some subjects in science, some in math, some in English, Tamil, whatever, using music and visual art. I think more people begin to think this way, the more we'll all become a consortium and start rechanging the way we can look at it, because the 3 children in class who will understand it the textbook way, they don't need our help. The remaining 40, no, I think they do. Because if you start telling them that there are multiple ways, because by teaching it as a song, Amar, even if they don't learn the concept, what have you cued to the child? You cued to the child that there are more ways of looking at the same thing. You're already inducing creativity, right? Going back to my definition. You're looking beyond the obvious.
So coming back to the creative thing in schools, is creativity abused by saying, there's art class, there's painting class and all that?
Now, first of all, as I keep saying, art and music is not equal to creativity, right? So, I mean, that's unfortunately, நம்ம ஸ்கூலிங்கில் அப்படி தான் வச்சுருக்காங்க. I don't think it's right. And yes, I mean, come on. In 45 degrees heat in Tamil Nadu, if you're being taught to sing Rain, Rain, Go Away, Come Back Another Day, how has that got to do either with music or with creativity? And in some cases, the music and art class disappears altogether, right? And it's taken over by the maths teacher or the physics teacher, because extra portions are there, right? Every time makeup sessions need to be there, the first class to go will be the music and art class. I don't think we have taken either of those things seriously. And let's also be clear, music plus art plus theatre is not equal to creativity. Those are just specific art forms. You can be a very uncreative musician. You can be a very, 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 very uncreative photographer. I'm sure you know, right? Creativity, as I've already defined, it can come in anything, right? So I think art and music is important in schools. But I ask these questions. Why in school was art class, they never exposed us to the difference between oil paints and watercolors, or mixed media, how to work with different material, look at textures, look at colors differently. Were you ever taught the difference between indigo blue and teal and aquamarine in school? No, I had to find this all out.
No, I heard the word mixed media very late in my life.
So did I, right? So that's 2 example data points right there, right? And we are artistic people, right? It was an embarrassment to me that until 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't even know what teal was, right? See, now I'm using these words confidently like I've always used them. Because nobody taught these things to me at an age where I could have learned these things, right? And all we would do, they'll give us a drawing notebook or some paper, some crayons or color pencils and draw everything. And we'd all draw those 2 hills with one sun peeping out of it, one river, one house, some crows, imaginative children drawing some grass. Or house, let's all not forget the house. Okay? One disproportionate house with 2 very large windows, one very odd shaped door and a chimney which will have smoke coming out of it, like we all live in hill stations, and a tree which has no branch in it but will still have a swing, and a ridiculous fence around that house. Which house looks like this in any life, right? I discovered where this comes from, by the way. That's one of the great mysteries of life I have solved.
Where?
So in the 2nd standard, they use one of these picture books called Susan's House. It's there in all of our syllabus. That is where it came into your brain. Okay? See, now you know. That is why for the rest of your life you're stuck with it. Imagine that same 2nd standard, if you actually start doing creative projects, what you will see for the rest of a child's life. Can you imagine a life of India? Can you imagine the life of India if instead of the way we are schooling right now, right, creative intelligence became the language through which we taught children?
Oh my god, my mind is going haywire, Anil, because I can immediately connect to see, I go meet all these artisans, handicraft people and all that, right? All their kids are getting into BPOs and IT jobs and earning less than what the artisan actually can make.
And the arts are dying. But imagine if that came. So imagine if, for example, Kalamkari became a project that you did when you were in school. I know there are some special schools which are doing these things, but imagine if all schools did this, right? What about if for example, you and I visit so many temples across Tamil Nadu and we see architecture, we see, how material was used, you see how geometry was used. Very simple. If you are a school in Madurai, just go visit the Meenakshi Amman temple and you learn geometry. You will learn better geometry going to the Meenakshi Amman temple than you'll be sitting in class and learning. We don't think like that, no. Meenakshi Amman temple will be that picnic day.
And
when
also
you get
in
to
that
cut class.
process, we could document so many things, right? Like
So
that,
many things.
yeah.
See, Kapali temple in Mylapore, I took a group of students once. Very simple. The temple pond, right? The temple tank was a water conservation, plus it was the life of the entire community. It's built on a slope so that there's an inlet, there's an outlet, so that's teaching you something in hydraulics, it's teaching you something in water conservation and the flow of water. Everything around that temple tank, right, to take the temple economy, it basically powers so many local artisans, local crafts. Every single industry that does well there is a cottage industry and deals with perishable things. Flowers, food items, temple articles, things which will disappear in one day. So it's a very renewable, zero carbon footprint, to use today's terminology, right? And every one of those vendors will be interdependent with one another, like a garland, right? So it's also taught how community building works around a temple thing. So forget about the religion part of it. Look at what it has engendered with the use of space, what that space is used for, and what people do around these things, right? I can learn economics out of this. I can learn society and civics out of this. I can learn architecture out of this. I can learn geometry out of this. Tell me one subject you can't learn by just observation.
Yeah, just I'm going back to my college days where there's finally a project, right? It's just something that you go buy a project and
You did
comes
civil engineering.
I did computer science. See, the partnership between education institutions and the industry doesn't happen at all. There's no connection to it
Unless
at all.
you have parents who can connect you with a specific friend who will give you an internship and then you do something.
But even then, we are just treated as
data entry. That's all. Yeah. So, Amar, I'll ask you this question. Can we link computer science with the temple economy and create a project? I can think of at least 10 different ideas, right?
We should have totally. There's so many things, right? Like just imagine if
how can
one
I simulate architectural models using it? That could be a project. How about if I use it as
don't
a
even go so deep, right? Just take the different types of pillars, measure them, give a engineering drawing to it, right? First year engineering.
How much you can do?
We have not documented all those.
So in Mylapore, especially since we are so close by, Pakatliya there's the Buckingham Canal, which is actually meant to be a flow. Which is cleaner, the temple tank or the Buckingham Canal? Just think about it. Secondly, Buckingham Canal is not used for anything, whereas the temple tank is still used for a lot of things. When was the temple tank constructed? When was the Buckingham Canal? Just do a comparison basis. And now, thanks to our wonderful civic planning, you have the MRTS pillars being built along the Buckingham Canal bed. I don't know which engineer decided that that is the best way to do it, right? One of the worst things to do to a natural, to a waterway that was connecting. So, unak angiye vanda stock versus flow, you have a comparison there. Stock versus flow is one of the basic comparisons in economics, right? How much richness life has to give you. Nobody taught you to look at things like this, no? One of the first things that you guys in photography will say, you have to look at things differently, right? Because you start looking at the interplay between light and darkness, right? And you start looking at everything with perspective. These are the words we use. Look at life in perspective. Look at life as an interplay of light and shadow, and you will start seeing patterns emerge which will teach you a lot more than unfortunately what your NCERT textbook is telling you, right? And you and I are spending the rest of our lives justifying why the NCERT book was boring. Instead of going around telling people, okay, both of us love movies, so I will tell you this. I watched recently an Allu Arjun movie, I forget the name, DJ Pushpa. Or something. No, not Pushpa. Pushpa name I can't forget. DJ. It's a Telugu movie, right? It's a very nice dialogue he makes. It's talking about how people who lie and cheat are able to sit today with so much of pride and dignity, and the people who are actually being true to their art and true to their craft are having to apologize to these people. What in heaven's name is going on, right? This is the change that we need to make, right? If we keep on saying be the change you wish to see, I think artists today and the creative people today are the change. We should be the ones who are standing tall and saying, look at us, and maybe you'll learn something. I don't think we do that at all.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about artisans and you're talking about craftspeople, there's so much shame. Nobody wants to, right? Yeah. They don't want to admit that they're a weaver. They don't want to admit anything that they're doing which is actually phenomenal. Where in the world will you get the quality of a Kanchipuram silk weave?
True.
Where are you going to get the kind of block printing that we have in Kalamkari?
Forget about that. how many photographers feel
Proud.
about
I
doing
go to
photography?
weddings and shoot weddings. They want to say it.
Yeah. So how do you have any advice to get this pride back, or do you like how do we get this pride back?
I think you got to start by loving yourself. I know that sounds very weird and corny, but that's all it is. I think you need to find space in yourself to like yourself a little more.
In whatever you do.
Whatever you do, you've got to like yourself. The moment you start informing yourself of, you cannot value yourself by the way the rest of the world values you. You have to value yourself first. Unfortunately, even the kind of popular technology that we are using today is teaching you that you are as good as how much the world likes you. Screw that. I think you need to get into how much you don't need everybody else. All you need to do is your belief. Just focus on self-love. As corny, as cheesy as it sounds. This sounds like a meme, but it's not. When we talk about collaboration, Amar Ramesh is a combination of 3-4 different personalities. You are not only a photographer. You are many other things. Do all your selves collaborate with one another?
All yourselves, yeah, definitely.
அதுதானே ஃபர்ஸ்ட் சொல்லி கொடுக்கணும். How does the thinker Anil, the musician Anil, the scientist Anil, the economist Anil, the husband Anil, and the friend Anil, the son Anil, how can all of them collaborate? நம்ம வந்து ராவணர் வந்து தசாவதாரம்ல வந்து we talk about the 10 heads of Ravana. Each of us wears 10 heads.
Yeah.
How do you get all the 10 heads to collapse and become one?
Not only that, right, in any business that we do, we are actually building community. We are actually building collaborations.
But nobody wants to talk about it with pride. No? People are very scared about admitting that they need a collaboration. I don't understand. Right? So deeply wired is this idea of individual achievement, and that too only metric achievement. ஸ்கூலில் இருக்கும்போது மார்க்ஸ், வேலைக்கு போனாக்க how much profit you're making, everything. இப்போ வந்து சோஷியல் மீடியாவில் லைக்ஸ், ஷேர்ஸ், everything is numerical representation. Numerical, think about it, right? I read this in some advertising bumper sticker, but I kind of completely agree. I mean, I think the most important moments in life are the ones that I don't have photographs of actually. Does it make me value those moments less? Think about it.
Totally.
Right? The most important people in my life, I'm not clicking photographs with them every day saying I love you all the time, right? When I ask you if you've eaten, when I say go home and message me that you've reached, I think I'm saying I love you, right? I don't have to say it in so many words all the time. I think somewhere we've gotten into this meme culture, social media culture, the technology is using you and we're forgetting everything that's real, right? Creativity keeps you real, Amar. That's
so
the
in
reason.
that thing, right?
Coming back to creativity
How
keeps you real.
is the online thing going to affect this, Anil?
It's affecting very badly. Talking about Rhapsody or talking about legend?
Generally, online classes, online thing.
I think children are going to go back to offline, right? They already are. I think they're fed up with 2 years of online tamasha. I think we're going to see a go back to schools. But schools are now going to have to rethink how they cater to children. Because children have now had 2 years at home, right? And have seen a lot of things online. They've been given a lot of multimedia exposure. That schools are going to have to work very hard to re-gear themselves to match the expectations of how children and parents are going to be going forward. Online will always remain a supplementary medium. So, like when I'm doing a project with Harvard, obviously I can't do that offline. Like I can't afford to send 24,000 children to Harvard. So that will have to be done online. But online is always going to be a supporting medium to us. I don't think this replacement concept is going to work.
But will it affect the creativity? It will.
But I think if we are clever, we should learn how it can affect it positively and learn to harness it quickly. See, for me, Cartier-Bresson was one photographer that, rocked for me all the time. And because of Cartier-Bresson, probably Raghupat Singh, right? I'm ashamed to admit that I didn't know either of these names till about maybe 15 years ago. I wish I'd known all this when I was.
So many photographers don't know this name until now.
I can see why. Right?
Because they only know photographers from Instagram.
What a world, right? So when I look at Cartier-Bresson, what does he photograph? He photographs such simple things. A staircase, a dog playing in some house. I mean, it's just life, right? And it's mostly black and whites, right? And then you look at it, and then you start looking at stories into it, and you start looking at perspective into it. You start looking at so many wonderful things into it, and for suddenly, you are kept real. It's Cartier-Bresson's creativity helps you keep yourself real, right? And I think the online medium has helped me discover all these things. Because I wouldn't, sitting in Chennai, I may not have discovered all these things. It has helped me discover these things. So let's use the online medium for discovery, for exploration, for delight. Let's not use it as one more medium to put ourselves down. That's what I would say. Right?
Yeah.
Technology is trying to use us. Everybody please wake up. Let's use technology, not the other way around. Right? I'm not a data point. I am a human being. I'm a living, thinking human being. Okay? I'm not just data. Please don't trade me. Don't transact with me. Just talk to me as a human being. I think if we can harness this well, right, it will help us. That's why that fourth pillar of creative intelligence, design and innovation, na solren liya. So how do you use technology to help the creative process go into execution? That's what we should be focusing on. But yes, schools will change.
My God, we can keep on going on, Anil. And actually, I started wanting to talk to you about music, but then we totally changed into creativity.
Nothing to talk about music. Just listen to music. Lots of it. That's all.
And right now, like at this point of time in your life, what is the purpose of your life?
I want to transform Indian education. That's the purpose of my life.
By inducing creativity and
Whatever I do, it needs to transform Indian education. If I can bring creativity back into school syllabi, I think that's a huge contribution already. Today we work with over 5 lakh children. I think it's a lot for one person. I want this to multiply and go even bigger.
that's amazing. And if there is anything that we can do, we would love to.
You're already doing.
One last question, Anil. Give us your best, like the books that it's a must read.
Okay, I already mentioned Alan Lightman and Einstein's Dreams. I mean, just for inspiration. I think people should read 3 Cups of Tea. It's by Robert Morrison, and it's a book about this gentleman who set up a school for girls in Nepal. You must read that book. I think, and definitely I would also add to this list, and for no particular reason, but Tuesdays with Morrie.
Tuesdays with Morrie.
And it's a conversation between a student and his dying teacher, and they would meet every Tuesday. And it's life lessons, but written very beautifully.
Amazing. I'm going to get all these.
The name of the author is Mitch Albom.
Nice. I'm going to get all these 3 immediately. Thank you so much. It was wonderful. I had a great time, and there's a lot more we have to do together. Thanks, Anil.
Thanks, Amar.
Yeah.